Oh my goodness. I do not understand why we live in this cursed timeline. Hillary Clinton wrote a piece for the New York Times basically giving Joe Biden debate advice in dealing with Trump. Why can't you just go away, bro? This is like a classic Democratic Party thing to do. It's like, all right, who are our losers? Bring them out. They must give everybody else advice on how to win. But they know nothing about that. Oh my God. Okay, so here we go. Title, Hillary Clinton. I've debated Trump and Biden. Here's what I'm watching for. Last week, I had the time of my life at the Tony Awards. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. All right, I'm jumping ahead. I am the only person to have debated both men. Mr. Trump in 2016, and in the 2008 Democratic primary race, Mr. Biden. By the way, I've seen this in like mainstream media, and I see it among these elite types. Like, instead of calling Trump, she says Mr. Trump. And instead of calling Joe Biden, or Joe, it's Mr. Biden. Can we stop? Like, Hillary Clinton is so inauthentic. She even seems inauthentic when you're just reading something she wrote. So I'm going to drop the Mr. here. She debated Trump in 2016 and Biden in 2008. By the way, that was a totally different Joe Biden. I know the excruciating pressure of walking onto that stage and that it is nearly impossible to focus on substance when Trump is involved. In our 3 debates in 2016, he unleashed a blizzard of interruptions, insults, and lies that overwhelmed the moderators and did a disservice to the voters who tuned in to learn about our visions for the country, including a record 84 million viewers for our first debate. It is a waste of time to try to refute Try to refute Trump's arguments like in a normal debate. It's nearly impossible to identify what his arguments even are. This is horrible advice. It's like she's saying give up on logic, give up on reason, give up on trying to actually make good substantive points because it doesn't work. That's what she's saying about debating Trump. That's insane. This is the worst advice I could ever imagine. He starts with nonsense and then disagree and digresses into blather. This has gotten only worse in the years since we debated. I was not surprised that after a recent meeting, several chief executives said that Trump, as one journalist described it, could not keep a straight thought and was all over the map. Yet expectations for him are so low that if he doesn't literally light himself on fire on Thursday evening, some will say he was downright presidential. Honestly, this just strikes me as dishonest. I would say that the expectations for Biden are the lowest of the low because everybody sees how much he's struggling cognitively. So if he gets on stage and he manages to make some coherent points and string some sentences together and not stumble and fall all over himself, I think what she's saying here about Trump is actually true of Biden. That the bar is below the basement. All he has to do is clear that bar, right? I think everybody kind of expects Trump to win. I remember we covered the thing where Piers Morgan said he expects Trump to win. Me and Crystal talked about this, and I think she thinks Trump is likely to win. And, the point I made is I actually think it helps Trump that they are cutting the mics when the other person is answering. Because if you didn't do that, Trump would keep interrupting, and he would come across as unhinged, and Biden could end up winning by default the same way that Biden beat him the last time when Trump was just berating him and it was just uncomfortable. Right? She continues here. Mr. Trump may rant. Mr. Trump, I can't stand that. Trump may rant and rave in part because he wants to avoid giving straight answers about his unpopular positions, like restrictions on abortion, giving tax breaks to billionaires, and selling out our planet to big oil companies in return for campaign donations. He interrupts and bullies. He even stalked me around the stage at one point because he wants to appear dominant and throw his opponent off balance. These ploys will fall flat if Biden is as direct and forceful as he was when engaging Republican hecklers at the State of the Union address in March. The president also has facts and truth on his side. Oh my God. He led America's comeback from a historic health and economic crisis with more than 15 million jobs created so far, incomes for working families rising, inflation slowing, and investments in clean energy and advanced manufacturing soaring. He'll win if that story comes through. Look, this is the classic Democratic thing to do. It's like, let's talk about how good everything is. Let's talk about how great the economy is. I don't think that's really going to work, right? Because, polls show that, the traditional way you would measure how an economy is, like, GDP is up, and unemployment is down, and 15 million jobs have been created, and the stock market is doing well. Those are economic indicators that are really more of a reflection of how the wealthy are doing. The stock market for sure is that. The unemployment rate, it might be low, but how many of those people are underemployed, right? That's a big problem that's going on, and people rarely talk about it at all. How many of those people are working gig economy jobs? How many of those people are working 2 jobs or 3 jobs, right? So, to use these traditional indicators, it's not the best. I don't think when people say, hey, I'm struggling or I'm not doing well, and you're like, actually, you're doing fine, and let me explain why. I don't think that's a good idea. I think what Biden would need to do is have a bold agenda and run on that bold agenda and say what he's going to do for you. He could still bring up, hey, here's some of the good things I did. I added 700,000 manufacturing jobs or whatever. But you also have to say, but I'm going to get rid of all the medical debt when when you guys reelect me or something like that, right? Something that here's what you will get if you vote for me again. But look, Hillary is a conservative Democrat. Biden is a conservative Democrat. So they're more likely to use these sorts of conservative arguments, right? And I don't think that fares well for them. She continues, in 2016, I prepared intensely for the debates because I knew I had to find a way to cut through Trump's antics and help the American people understand what was really at stake. In 90-minute mock debates on an identical stage, I practiced keeping my cool in the face of hard questions and outright lies about my record and character. A longtime advisor played Trump and did everything he could to provoke, rattle, and enrage me. It worked. I mean, is she sort of sucking herself off here for thinking she did a phenomenal job? You ended up losing the race. So you didn't do that good of a job. If you go back and look at these debates, Trump and Hillary, and you read the responses, and it's just in text form, I think it would be fair to say Hillary won those debates. For sure. But for people watching, it was a little bit of a different story. And I think the reason for that is it all comes back to what we talked about earlier, which is people just view her as really inauthentic. Right? They view her as inauthentic. They view her as over-prepared. And you might say, hey, that's unfair, right? It's unfair to say, oh, you prepared too much for the debate? That's ridiculous. What are you punishing her for doing her homework? And my response to that would be, it seemed like your average American, yes, did punish her for that. When everything seems staged, everything seems planned out, if you got your canned lines and you're waiting to deliver them, sorry, this is not the political era we live in. We live in the political era of the person who shoots from the hip and does it really fast and goes off whim and gut and intuition and seems more no-filtery, right? That's just what it is. So in other words, her issue is more of a style issue than a substance issue. But I don't think she has anything she could offer to Joe Biden. Remember, Joe Biden won the debate when Trump was insane and ranting and raving and raging, and Biden was just like, man, calm down. You're crazy, Jack. Biden ended up winning that debate. For Hillary, I don't know. Are there any debates that you could say she won? I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, I do think some of the debates, I think she did a good job. But, he had the ultimate trump cards, no pun intended. He could always go back to she's corrupt. Look at all the money they took from special interests. He could always go back to NAFTA. Her husband did NAFTA. They sent all the jobs overseas. He had these things he could keep coming back to. You represent the establishment, I'm the outsider, and that ended up working. So look, in terms of advice for this debate, what I would say to Team Biden is try to get that fucking rule changed about how the mics are cut when one person's talking or the other person's talking. You don't want that. You want Trump to interrupt you. You want Trump to come across unhinged and rude, because that's how you won the debate that you won against him. So I have no doubt that the Biden people are dumb enough where they thought no, we need this where they mute the other person's mic while we're talking. They wanted that, I'm sure. But that's your best bet to win this debate, is give him enough rope to hang himself. You don't have to do most of the talking. You do less of the talking. Just be coherent when you do talk, and then give him enough rope to hang himself. Let him come across as unhinged. Let him come across as an extremist. Let him bait him into saying the 2020 election was rigged again. Things like that. Bait him into contradicting himself on abortion or overreaching on abortion. That's what you need to do. But certainly anything that Hillary Clinton would give you is not the advice you should be taking. Because she debated him 3 times, and she ended up losing that race. And I have no doubt that she views everything she does through rose-colored glasses, because of course she does. She still blames fucking Russia and Jill Stein and Comey and sexism for her loss. So anyway, I wanted to end on this point here, comparing the debate styles of Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So here's how they phrase this. It's a YouGov poll. Regardless of which presidential candidate you prefer, during a televised debate between the two of them, who do you think is blank? So who's more likely to fumble over his words? Joe Biden wins on that one by a landslide. 58% say Joe Biden is more likely to fumble over his words. Who's better at staying calm under pressure? They also give that to Joe Biden because they view Trump as kind of unhinged. 48% say Biden is better at staying calm under pressure. 31% say Trump is. Who is more knowledgeable on policy issues? Biden wins that one, 43-38. Who's a better debater? Trump wins this one, 43-36. Who's more likely to dodge a question? Trump wins that one, 43-36. Who's more likely to lie? Trump wins that one, 46%-34%. Who's more persuasive? Trump crushes on that one, 45% to Biden's 29%. Who's more likely to make personal attacks? Oh my God, Trump. This is Trump by a mile, 56% to 17%. Who's more likely to go over the allotted time? Trump, 57%, Biden, 12%. By the way, they're exactly right. Because I remember Biden in the Democratic primary debates, when his time would be up, he'd be like, oh man, my time's up. Like he would just stop mid-sentence. More likely to interrupt their opponent. Trump, 65%, Biden, 13%. And who's more likely to be physically intimidating? Trump 64%, Biden 6%. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I wanted to share that with you also. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.